This is Đà Nẵng TV News brought to you by the Đà Nẵng Radio and Television. My name is Dui, and today's news will feature the following headlines. Number of COVID-19 infections surpasses 2 million globally. Supporting enterprises in coping with COVID-19 epidemic. Ministry of Education and 20 to survey distance teaching activities. As of April the 16th morning at Vietnam time, the number of COVID-19 infections worldwide reached 2,074,000, including more than 134,000 deaths and more than 51,000 people in critical conditions. According to statistics, the United States is still the country with the highest number of infections and deaths in the world, with nearly 642,000 infections and nearly 28,000 deaths. In Europe, the COVID-19 outbreaks in Italy and Spain are showing signs of slowing down, but the number of infections in some other countries such as Russia, Belgium, and the United Kingdom has increased. In Asia, South Korea recorded the third consecutive day of having fewer than 30 new infections. China had 46 more cases, while Japan has 215 more cases. On April the 15th afternoon, Prime Minister Nguyễn Xuân Phúc chaired the government's regular meeting on the prevention and control of COVID-19, which summarized the implementation of Directive No. 16 and made new decisions. Concluding at the meeting, the Prime Minister agreed with the Steering Committee's recommendations on implementing classification of epidemic risk in localities on the basis of epidemiological analysis and the ability to cope with the epidemic. Therefore, the Prime Minister agreed to divide cities and provinces into 3 groups, including those with high risk, medium risk, and low risk. The high-risk group includes Hanoi, Ho Chi Minh City, Da Nang, and 9 other cities and provinces. These localities will continue to implement Directive No. 16 until April the 22nd or April the 30th, depending on the specific situation, and may extend further if an infection occurs. For medium-risk provinces, it's necessary to have a roadmap to implement Directive No. 16 and strictly implement Decree No. 15 based on the practical situation until April the 22nd. Low-risk group includes the remaining localities. Although being classified in the low-risk group, the risk of infection is still very high. Therefore, these localities need to continue implementing the Prime Minister's Directive No. 15. The Government Office had just issued the Notice 156 on the conclusion of Prime Minister Nguyễn Xuân Phúc at the meeting on the organization of a dialogue between the Prime Minister and enterprises in order to solve difficulties and promote production and business activities, restarting the economy to cope with the COVID-19 epidemic. Prime Minister Nguyễn Xuân Phúc said that the COVID-19 pandemic is very complicated and adversely affects the society and economy. Therefore, the organization of a dialogue between the Prime Minister and enterprises is very important and necessary to express the spirit of the government and the authorities at all levels in accompanying enterprises, fulfilling the dual duty of epidemic prevention and economic development, as well as calling on the business community to turn challenges into opportunities and restructure businesses, creating motivation for development and restarting the economy. The General Statistics Office had just sent an open letter to enterprises participating in the Enterprise Information Survey 2020 to ask them to continue conducting an additional survey to assess the impact of COVID-19 on production activities of enterprises. This is aimed at quickly collecting information to help the government, sectors and localities have more basis to propose policies and solutions to continuing to support businesses to overcome difficulties, stabilize and develop their manufacturing and business. Information will be collected via online survey. The additional survey for assessing the impact of COVID-19 on production and business activities of enterprises is conducted from now until April the 20th, 2020. According to the Ministry of Labour, War, Invalids and Social Affairs, in the first quarter of this year, there were 153,000 people applying for unemployment benefits. Laborers, especially in the fields of tourism, services, restaurants, hotels, and the free workforce, are facing great difficulties in their life because the majority of them have been out of work. To deal with this situation, the Ministry of Labour, War, Invalids and Social Affairs has conducted assessments, surveys, and practical inspections of many units and facilities. If the COVID-19 epidemic situation remains complicated, the number of unemployed people and jobless ones in April and May are estimated at about 2.5 million, and in case of strong outbreak of epidemic, the number of unemployed and jobless people may reach from 3.5 to 4 million. The Ministry of Finance had just completed the draft and asked for the opinions of residents, ministries, ministerial level agencies, and the Vietnam Chamber of Commerce and Industry for the draft circular regulating the granting of business licenses for international and domestic travel services and fees for assessment and issuance of tour guide cards. Accordingly, it is expected that in the coming time, a 50% reduction will be applied for the fees for evaluating and granting international and domestic travel service business licenses. According to the Ministry of Finance, this reduction will be applied until the end of December 31st, 2020. The other contents related to the collection of fees for granting a license to set up a representative office in Vietnam of a foreign travel service enterprise, the payment and management of vouchers, on the publicity of the fee collection regime will still be carried out according to the regulations. 4,000 among 5,000 small traders in the four largest markets in Đà Nẵng, including Cồn Market, Hàng Market, Đống Đa Market, and Hoa Cư Wholesale Market, have stopped trading due to the COVID-19 epidemic. The city government is reviewing the damage to support these small traders. In order to limit contact to contain the spread of the COVID-19 epidemic, the city government has encouraged small traders to implement trading activities under the form of home delivery. The Đà Nẵng Markets Development and Management Company has published a list and phone numbers of nearly 50 small traders in the four large markets in Đà Nẵng. Those have sold and delivered goods to homes. The company has also made a list of small traders affected by the epidemic and recommended the city government to consider support policies for them. The Municipal Department of Health required the local drug stores to report to the health authorities about cases of customers who have signs of fever, cough, or shortness of breath. Accordingly, the department has sent a dispatch to require drug retailers in the area to strengthen the prevention and control of the spread of the COVID-19 among the community. In case the drug buyers have symptoms such as fever, cough, shortness of breath, the owner of the drug retailing store must instruct them to implement e-health declaration and contact the nearest health facility for advice or call the hotline to receive information about COVID-19 epidemic for monitoring and supervising. The Đà Nẵng Department of Health also suggested that drug retailers in the area continue to fully implement measures to prevent and control COVID-19 epidemic as recommended by the Ministry of Health and the guidance of the city's Department of Health. To prepare for the new developments of the prevention and control of the COVID-19 epidemic, the Minister of Education and Training requested specialized units to build scenarios for teaching and learning in the coming period. Accordingly, subordinate units of the Ministry of Education and Training are requested to quickly improve online teaching regulations, including the regulations on safety and security, to protect students and teachers in the process of online teaching and learning. The focus is also on developing video clips to guide teachers to develop effective online teaching programs, as well as continuing to conduct evaluation of lectures sent by localities to broadcast on the National Educational Television Channel, or VTV7. Following the guidance of the Ministry of Education and Training, localities have selected outstanding teachers to participate in the compilation of lectures in line with streamlined programs to teach on television and via the Internet. The General Department of Environment under the Ministry of Natural Resources and Environment has just reported that the air quality in major cities across the country has significantly improved during the social isolation period. The statistics shows that from March the 22nd to April the 7th, most of the time during a day, air quality maintained at a good and moderate levels. According to the General Department of Environment, many reports have analyzed and pointed out the main causes of air pollution, in which activities in industrial production, transportation, construction, etc. are all sources causing dust and emissions into the air environment. Therefore, when the big cities nationwide have implemented the social isolation, the production, transportation, and construction activities have reduced or stopped, leading to the significant improvement of air quality. The Da Nang People's Committee has just issued a document about the organization of the Wonderful Da Nang 2020 Festival, scheduled to take place in June 2020. Accordingly, the Municipal People's Committee allowed the city's Department of Tourism to share and coordinate with relevant units to organize the Wonderful Da Nang 2020 Festival based on the actual situation, the developments of COVID-19 epidemic, as well as the policies and guidance of the central and local authorities. The Wonderful Da Nang 2020 Festival is scheduled to be held from June to September 2020 in the local tourism beaches, the city center, and other tourist attractions. This festival, which is renovated from the annual event, Da Nang Summer Rendezvous, promises to become a unique and attractive festival, serving local people and tourists in 2020. And now let's take a look at our updated weather forecasts. And that's wrapped up today's news. Don't forget to check out DaNangTV.vn to rewatch our programs. Thank you for watching and goodbye for now.